Hey there, welcome back to another Pixel Lazy flight as I travel around the world in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. This is flight L121, service from Petropavlovsk, Kamchatka, Russia, to Kurils, Russia. We are taking off out of the Yelazovo airport down on the Kamchatka peninsula in the Pacific fire circle of fire off to the north. That's the south. Off to the north, behind those clouds, is some beautiful volcanoes, which you can't see because we're in a bit of rain. But it is late afternoon, early evening where I am, and it is early mid-morning in Russia. And the sun is just kind of coming up. And we're just taking off, and we're going to head south. We're going to probably get up above the clouds and do a short little jump and head down into the chain of islands that connects this peninsula of Russia, in northern Russia, to the island of Japan, which is actually perfect timing because I just spent my entire afternoon downloading a content update for Microsoft Flight Simulator. The first ever major content update for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and it was for, coincidentally, the island of Japan. So on my round the world trip I had no special knowledge of what was going on there, but luckily I'm just about to visit the island of Japan and check out some of that new scenery, some of the new fixes that they've made, and we will see what it looks like, hopefully in the next couple videos. But this video might be a double leg again. I don't know if there's going to be much to see as we head down south, but if there is enough to kind of fill more than 15 or 20 minutes, then I will do another video right away. Otherwise, this is going to be a double video, and we'll do a couple legs, and this will be my last video in Russia if that's the case. I'll check in when I'm a little further and maybe out of these clouds. Thought I'd check in because I'm about halfway through my flight, maybe a little less than halfway, but I think time-wise I'm about halfway through. I'm about an hour long. It says I've got about 68 minutes left to go. The storm lit up a little bit, so the sun came up a little more. We're just passing another one of those volcanoes. If you watched my previous video, we are on this Russian peninsula, which is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, which I should have been aware of, I guess, but you know, didn't think of it when I saw all these volcanoes and started coming across all these volcanoes on my flights. And it's actually there's a chain of them, so every 30 or 40, 50 miles or so there's another big mountain, another kind of another volcano sticking out of the landscape. And you can see it's not really a mountain range. I mean, there's some rolling mountains here, and if it wasn't so cloudy, foggy, you'd see it a little better, but you know, it's really just that rolling hills. You can sort of see it on the GPS computer, the center one there, and the landscape is sort of just gently rolling hills, and then every once in a while there's a mountain protruding out of it. And as I look those up on Google Maps, those are all volcanoes. And so there's sort of this chain of islands south of here, so another 40 miles or so we're going to hit water, and when we hit water, that starts off this chain of islands that's about, I'd say, 200 to 300 miles long, and somewhere in there we transition from Russia into Japan. I'm not exactly sure where that boundary is. Maybe it's halfway, maybe it's, the last island is Russia and the first big island is, I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up and get a better answer for that. But I have a feeling they're basically a chain of volcanic islands, because we're right on sort of the continental shelf there, what I understand. So it's really kind of cool, and I think that's the same chain of volcanoes that kind of loops down through Japan, hits all through Hawaii. So yeah, we're all part of the same geologic formation. Which, this is kind of far north. I got some elevation on my way here, and my wings froze up, and I had to get some descent, and then clouds sort of cleared up a little bit. But way back there was a nice little storm when we took off. It was raining. You can sort of see the shelf, the cloud shelf there. There's also another player who I think took off from the same airport as I did. But yeah, we're getting a little closer to the edge of Russia, I think. And I will check in when I see water or something else interesting. I wanted to capture a few minutes of video. As you can see ahead, there is some water. That is, I won't call it the tip of the peninsula, but it is certainly where I will be entering back into the open water flights and headed out towards that chain of islands that connects me to Japan. So we are just about to swoop past these last two mountain peaks. A little bit of a small range popped up here, and then we can probably scoot back down to sea level, get closer to my course, and got, probably looks like about 40 miles of open water flight, and landing on the first of a chain of islands as we continue our flight around the world. If you've been watching my other videos, you know that I left from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada about a month ago, a little over a month ago, in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, in this one Cessna 172 Skyhawk. We flew across Alberta, across British Columbia, up the west coast, Vancouver Island, up to Alaska. Went through Alaska to Anchorage and then up to Nome. We crossed over the Bering Sea into Russia, northern Russia. And we spent the last couple weeks flying through northern Russia and down this peninsula en route to Asia. And hopefully I'll spend, hopefully I'm going to spend a lot more time in Asia. I want to probably spend at least 2 weeks in Japan, maybe 3 weeks in Japan. You know, do some shorter flights. These last videos have been, yeah, they're significantly long videos. If you watch them all the way through, I applaud you, because they're long videos. But I have this completionist streak in me that wants to document the whole thing. I know everybody's not going to sit and watch all the way through them, but if you have, they're about 30 minutes of bits and pieces and some of the highlights of these flights, and you know, some of those flights have been 2.5 hours long. Some of the videos have encompassed 2 flights, so you've seen 30 minutes clipped out of 5 hours of flying. And yeah, I'm doing it all in real time. I'm not using autopilot. I'm not a pilot myself, so you know, I make mistakes. I admit that. And the facts I'm telling you, I usually looked up on Wikipedia as I hit some of these locations. But my goal is to go from point A to point B on every flight. I only use this plane for these flights, so you're not seeing anything that I'm not recording stuff that I'm not showing you, or I'm not flying on when I'm not recording. As you can see on the upper corner there, I've flown 43 and almost a half hours in this plane, and all of that has been the lead in to this trip, and then this trip. So I did about 8 hours of practice flying, and then the last 35-ish have been me flying on this trip. And the plan is to fly all the way around the world, to eventually make it back over to North America the other way around. So this was that initial first stretch, and I'm getting excited because, you know, I knew this stretch to get from basically northern BC up into Russia and back down to Japan was going to be a long haul of a lot of long, I don't call them boring, they're not boring, but the landscape is not urban landscape. It's not looking at, you know, anything that's like landmarks that you'd be familiar with. It's this type of stuff. Amazing mountain ranges, long stretches of icy tundra, forests. And once I get down into Asia and then eventually Australia, I'm hoping to see a lot different landmarks. Maybe a few less mountains, but we'll see. I've never been to those countries, and I'm looking forward to a surprise. But yeah, this is it. This is me leaving Russia proper and heading into this chain of islands up ahead, and I will check in as I get a little closer. Say goodbye to Russia. It's got about 10 minutes until I land. I'm well over this chain of islands now. You can see Kamchatka, Russia. Those mountains in the background is across that little bit of water behind us. And this is the first of the islands in what I've been researching is called the Kuril Islands, which is a volcanic archipelago south of Kamchatka, Russia. So this is essentially a string of volcanoes in this Pacific Pacific Ocean here, and we are looking to land just up where that little mountain ridge is over there. There's another little waterway between where actually that's a different island over there. So we're on this first island, that's the second island. We're going to land on the second island, which is much bigger than this little one that we're flying over now. And I don't know what's over there, but we'll find out. And yeah, it seems like it's much bigger than I thought it was going to be. I've mapped this out, and it looks like it was going to take me 3 flights to get down there, but according to Wikipedia, this is a 810-mile stretch of islands, so unless I'm not counting something, or unless I'm taking a shortcut somewhere, it's quite a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. That would be a good 4 or 5 flights. I'm hoping I'm misreading something, but I'll check into that. And yeah, this is mostly Russia, mostly Russian territory. There's a few disputed islands. I guess the most southerly 4 islands are claimed by Japan, and they're a little bit disputed. So yeah, we will scoot over and see what's going on over there, and I'm just gonna sign off for a second here, and I'll probably do a silent landing, but I will be adding onto this as a second flight, so stay tuned. So I'm back. It's been a couple weeks. I've had a mix of technical and personal and just life getting in the way. And I find myself here in the Kuril Islands, about 2 weeks since I've flown, on a runway that seems to be about 50 feet long. So we're going to try this and see what happens. think this is a bit of an error, but we'll give it a go. Gonna have to do some overground, maybe a bit of a rough takeoff, hopefully before we hit these buildings. And hopefully that is one of the sketchiest takeoffs you'll ever have to witness. Excuse me.
Stall.
So as I mentioned, it's been about 2 weeks since I last recorded. I had this goal of skipping over these Kuril Islands here in southern Russia, kind of zooming into Japan and having some time exploring Japan, and a little bit of a technical issue. I had an issue with some stuff on my computer, and then of course there's a big update. I went to play about a week ago, and well, that wasn't a week ago, but maybe just over the weekend, and I had a big update that I had to download, which took like an hour and a half, so I kind of missed my window. And yeah, I don't want to sit here and make excuses, but you know, work and life, and we actually only have one gaming computer, and my daughter downloaded a new pack for Sims 4, which meant I got to fight for computer time with her, and every time I went to go play, she was sitting down here playing Sims. So, trying to be a good dad, I kind of let her play, and that meant I didn't get my flights in as I'd expected. So, just took off out of Kurils in the Kuril Islands, and we're going to be island hopping as we head down to another airport down on these islands, and I think it's going to be mostly flying over water today. And I guess we'll have a look and see what we hit. But again, back on route, back headed towards Japan. We've got about 192 nautical miles to our destination. And I'm just going to go around this mountain up here. I don't really want to try and gain enough altitude to fly over that, so I'm just going to fly around it and get on course. And I'll check in a little later. Since we took off, I've been flying about 45 minutes, and I've been crossing this first little expanse of water towards yet another island. This Kuril Islands is apparently a chain of lots and lots of islands, kind of extending down from northern Russia, leading into Japan. So as we fly along, we'll be nudging along these little islands and flying over some water here that'll eventually wind up traversing between what's considered Russia and what's considered Japan. And if I remember from my research a couple weeks ago, there is a few disputed islands kind of at the south end of this chain. Obviously it's the north end of Japan, south end of this chain of islands, and what I expect is that as we kind of approach them, you probably change airspace, because usually what happens is the various airspaces demark sort of controlled territories. So I won't know exactly where it is, but I assume when I get far enough south, I will hit a little orange line. I'm trying to look at this map here. On this map, right here, and there'll be a little orange line, and orange lines denote airspace. And so we will cross a boundary, and I will go from reporting to a Russian air traffic control to a Japanese air traffic control, and that'll kind of signal that I'm in Japan. So that same sort of thing happened when I went from Alaska to Russia. There's an interesting volcano just up ahead, and I'm going to swoop in there and I'll start recording again when I get a little closer to show that, because I think, just looking at the map, I think it'll be interesting. There's sort of a cone with a crater-like lake around it, and then sort of a, what do you call it, like the caldera is in the center, and then kind of sitting what seems to be in a lake, or probably a saltwater lake. But we'll see. I won't be able to tell if it's saltwater or not, but I'm going to fly over that. So we're just over an hour and about halfway into this flight, and as you can see, we've come across this interesting little volcanic formation. Not sure what you call that, actually. It's sort of a volcano sitting in a lake at the top of a mountain. So you can tell that lake is obviously higher than sea level. I go for an external view to show you. So it looks like I said, almost the caldera of a collapsed volcano with another little cone protruding out of the water, and that sort of acted as a basin to collect some water. We're down in kind of the middle of the Kuril Islands. You can't really tell from the map. If you look at this little one here, you can see this formation. But yeah, if you were to zoom out in the map, we're about halfway down through the Kurils, and yeah, this is quite the interesting thing we got going on here. We need to do a little bit of a swoop around just to get a better view. It's early evening where I am, and it's mid to late morning, I guess, where I'm flying today. Kind of broken, scattered clouds. This is real weather, so I guess over in Russia they're having a bit of a mixed sunny day. Not really much for wind, about 5 miles an hour, 5 miles. Still used to metric here. And yeah, that's quite the interesting view. That's what I like to see. Something interesting. That's kind of why I took off on this flight. It's been about 2 months flying so far to get over here. Like I said, this is probably going to take me a couple of years to fly around the world. Not really any rush, but half my goal here is to see interesting sights and to check out places that I wouldn't or I couldn't go in real life. Check out this little map. See, that's what I saw on the map, and I thought, I'm going to check that out. It turns out that was worth checking out. I'm going to try and get some elevation and not crash into these mountains. I'll check back in a little while. About an hour and a half into my flight. It's about 40 nautical miles till we hit our destination for today. And that'll be 2 flights on this stretch through the Kuril Islands in northern Russia. Past probably about 8 or 10 islands so far. I've kind of lost count. On Wikipedia, Kuril Islands. Obviously, I've mentioned this before. It's a volcanic archipelago. It stretches about 810 miles from Japan to Kamchatka, Russia, which is where I traveled through in a couple of my previous videos. It says there's 56 islands and many minor rocks. And sort of veered off from my course here a little bit, you can tell in this little map, because I saw those 2 little green dots. I thought I would go check them out, and I guess those sort of look like some of those minor rocks. Resolution is not great. Obviously you can tell the satellite imagery is not terrific up here. I certainly hope they don't look like that in real life, but as far as a little bit of scenery, as we make this one stretch across, my next stop is the airport. And yeah, got some little rock islands out in the middle of the sea here. Travel down the peninsula and sort of see just past that haze on the horizon there's a mountain, and I think that's my destination. I'm about 1/3 of the way between the last island and that island up there. So I will check in one more time when we're about to land. We traverse through the last few bits of northern Russia down the Kuril Islands. If everything goes well, we should be landing in about 2 to 3 minutes. As you can see, the airport dead ahead just appeared on my screen a few seconds ago. I noticed it has the exact same name as the airport I just took off from, Kurils Airport, which I'm not exactly sure how they name these and whether that's just a glitch of the system, or if because these are landing strips, this is probably just a tiny little landing strip, and the Kurils is something to do with. I don't speak Russian, but this is the Kuril Islands, so maybe that means something like Kuril Islands Airport. It's kind of a generic name. It does have its own 4-letter airport code, so it is an airport. But yeah, we'll see when we land. I'm not going to have much room. It's a little bit of a narrow little strip there. Can't quite see. Oh, there it is, just sort of appearing down here on the screen. And there was no real indication on my map. I have a map open on another window. There's no really indication of which way the runways are facing, so I may be doing a little loop around here, trying to line myself up. Or maybe I'll just be landing on the grass. Looking now, I see some lines, a bit of an angle. I don't know if you can see that. I might have to video resolution. I might have to zoom out, but I see a little bit of a building with a line, so I'm going to take a chance. And as I lose my elevation here, try and maintain enough elevation just to kind of see what I can see with the airport. And hopefully, I'm thinking that the airport is either lined up this way. And that's my approach right there. Looks like a landing strip. It's hard to tell. I'm going to lose some of my velocity here. Drop the engines down. Flaps up. Yeah, that looks like about as much as a landing strip as we're going to get. Here in the middle of the Kuril Islands, there's a couple little buildings out here. Just trying to keep my nose up. Yep, that's about as much as a bush landing as you're going to get. Ooh, a little bit rough. There we are. I think this will be my last landing in Russia. I was looking at the map. I think, if all goes well, we should be taking off from here and flying into one of those Japanese controlled islands at the south end of this place. But yeah, there we are. Severodvinsk. Another airport, another day, another leg of my trip around the world. Thanks for watching. See you next time.